You want to go to college? Good. Figure it out yourself. My mother said that while sliding a $125,000 tuition check across the table to my little sister. Same table, same dinner, same parents, different daughter. 9 years later, I stood in the back of my sister's wedding. A wedding paid for by the same parents who couldn't spare a single dime for my future. My mother scanned the room and whispered to my father, "Why does it feel like something's missing?" Before anyone could answer, the groom turned pale. He looked at me, then at Sloane, then back at me, and he said something that silenced 220 guests. What that word was and what happened next destroyed a wedding, a family's lie, and a 9-year silence. All in under 4 minutes. My name is Paige Connolly. I'm 28 years old. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. This is not a revenge story. This is a survival story that happens to end with justice. Let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a beige brick colonial on Birchwood Drive in Oak Park, Illinois. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, a lawn my father mowed every Saturday like clockwork. From the outside, we looked like a family that had it together. From the inside, that depends on which daughter you ask. My mother, Carol, had a system. It wasn't written down anywhere, but everyone in the house understood it. Sloane was the investment. I was the overhead. Sloane got piano lessons. I got hand-me-down textbooks. Sloane got a new dress for every school dance. I got make do with what you have. Carol introduced us at neighborhood barbecues like a product line. This is my daughter, Sloane. She's going to do great things. Then a vague gesture in my direction. And this is Paige. No prediction, no pride, just a name. The refrigerator was the museum of Sloane's life, cheerleading photos, honor society certificates, a dried corsage taped to the freezer handle, every inch covered. One morning, sophomore year, I stuck my own honor roll certificate right in the center. By the time I got home from school, it was gone. The fridge was getting cluttered, my mother said, not even looking up from her magazine. My father, Robert, was a different kind of problem. He wasn't cruel. He was absent emotionally, strategically absent. He'd catch me in the hallway sometimes, away from Carol's earshot, and squeeze my shoulder. "I'm proud of you, kid." 5 words, always whispered, always when she wasn't looking, as if being proud of me was something that required secrecy. I told myself it would change when I got into college. I got in with a scholarship that covered half. I just needed them to cover the rest. May 2008. I was 18. Senior year ending in 11 days. I had a plan. I'd printed everything out: scholarship letter, tuition breakdown, a 4-year budget I'd built myself on a spreadsheet. Income from part-time work, estimated expenses, the exact gap I needed them to fill. $62,000 over 4 years. I'd rehearsed my pitch in the bathroom mirror 3 times. Dinner was roast chicken. Sloane sat across from me, scrolling her phone. My father cut his meat in silence. I waited until Carol finished her second glass of wine, then set the folder on the table. "I got into Lakewood University," I said. "Half scholarship. I just need help with the rest." My mother didn't open the folder. "Paige, we've talked about this. We hadn't, not once. You need to learn independence." She said it like a diagnosis. The real world doesn't hand you things. You're paying Sloane's full tuition at Northeastern. Sloane's situation is different. Carol folded her napkin. Precise, unhurried. She has potential that needs nurturing. You're more resilient. I looked at my father. He stared at his plate. His fork didn't move. He said nothing. I looked at Sloane. She stirred her water glass, didn't look up, didn't say one word in my defense. "This discussion is over," my mother said. "If you want it bad enough, you'll find a way." That's what strong people do. I gathered my papers. My hands were shaking. I would not cry in front of them. I would not give her that. Later in the hallway, my father caught my arm. Finally, I thought. Finally, he would say something. "Your mother has her reasons," he said. "Just give it time." Then he walked away. Back to the living room. Back to the television. back to the version of peace that required my silence. That night, I packed one suitcase. I had $340 in my savings account, and I made a decision I haven't reversed in 9 years. 5:14 a.m., the kitchen was dark. I set my house key on the counter next to the coffee maker, the one Carol ran every morning at 6:15, so she'd find it first. No note. I didn't have anything left to explain. The garage light was on. My father sat in his Buick, engine off, hands on the wheel. He saw me through the windshield. I saw him. He didn't open the door. I didn't knock on the glass. We just looked at each other for 3 seconds that felt like a year. Then I turned and walked to the bus stop on Madison Street. I was 18 years old. I had $340 to my name, and I was never going back. What happened over the next 9 years is the part my mother never told anyone. Campus was 90 minutes away. My dorm room had a thin mattress, a metal desk, and a window that wouldn't close all the way. No sheets, no blankets. I'd forgotten mine. I slept in my jacket that first night. By the end of the first week, I had 3 jobs. Dishwasher at Caruso's, an Italian restaurant off Central Avenue. Overnight cashier at a gas station on Route 83. Cleaning crew at the residence halls on weekends. 4 hours of sleep here. A 90-minute nap there. I ate whatever Caruso's threw out at closing. 2 weeks in, I called my mother. I don't know why, maybe I thought distance had softened something. "You made your choice," she said. "Don't call to make me feel guilty." She hung up. 7 seconds, that was the whole conversation. I saved her number under a new name. Do not answer. That same evening, a text from Sloan. "Mom says you're being dramatic. Just come home and apologize." So that was the story she was telling. I wasn't the daughter they'd abandoned. I was the daughter who left. The difficult one. The dramatic one. What I didn't know was that this narrative was about to follow me for nearly a decade, and that when it finally collided with the truth, it would happen in front of 200 people at a wedding. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Stay with me. Freshman year broke me in ways I didn't have words for. I fell asleep in organic chemistry twice. Spilled boiling water on my left hand during a dinner rush, 2nd-degree burn, 3 fingers. I wrapped it in gauze from the gas station first aid kit and went to my morning lecture 40 minutes later. My GPA hovered at 2.9, dangerously close to losing the only thing keeping me enrolled. Then Professor Daniel Harmon noticed. He taught my intro to health sciences seminar. Silver-haired, bow-tied, the kind of man who actually reads student papers instead of skimming them. After class one Tuesday, he asked me to stay. "You're exhausted," he said. Not a question. I gave him the short version. He didn't pity me. He pulled out a folder of internal grants and research assistantships. "You're too smart to burn out before sophomore year. Let me help you find a way that doesn't cost your hands or your sleep." He got me into a paid research position in his lab. $400 a month, but it replaced the overnight gas station shifts. For the first time since I'd left home, I had something that felt like breathing room. Meanwhile, my mother was busy building a different story entirely. Thanksgiving came. I wasn't invited, though Carol told the entire family I'd been asked and refused. "She doesn't want to see us," my mother reportedly said, dabbing her eyes at the table. "We've tried everything." My Aunt Diane called the week after. "Your mother is heartbroken, Paige. Why are you doing this to her?" I tried to explain. Diane cut me off. "Carol would never do that. You always were the difficult one." The line went dead. Just like that, I lost my mother's entire side of the family, too. Same week. Sloan posted a photo on Facebook. A brand new Audi A4 in our parents' driveway, red bow on the hood. Caption, "Best parents ever." Carol's comment underneath, "Anything for my baby girl," 87 likes. I took a screenshot, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. That was the night I stopped hoping they'd change and started building a life that didn't need them to. Maya Torres sat next to me in biology on the first day of sophomore year. Dark hair in a rubber band, circles under her eyes deeper than mine, and a thermos of coffee the size of a small fire extinguisher. "You look how I feel," she said. "Thanks. It's a compliment. Means you're still showing up." Maya was pre-med. Her parents had immigrated from Mexico when she was 6 and ran a dry cleaning shop in Rockford. They couldn't afford tuition any more than mine could, the difference being that her parents actually wanted to help. They just couldn't. Mine could. They just chose not to. She became the first person I told the whole story to, all of it. The dinner, the check, the Audi, the Facebook post. We sat on a bench outside the science building at 11 at night, both of us eating gas station sandwiches because neither of us could afford the dining hall. Maya didn't flinch. She wiped mustard off her chin and said, "You don't owe them a redemption arc, Paige. You owe yourself a life." I carried those words for years. That semester, I started writing a research paper for Dr. Harmon's lab, 12 pages on data applications in patient record management, small clinic systems, workflow gaps. I wrote most of it in the break room at Caruso's, between midnight and 3 a.m., between loads of industrial dishes. It was dry, technical, and completely unsexy, but it was the first thing I had ever built that felt entirely mine. Dr. Harmon read the draft in one sitting. "This could be something," he said. "Not just a paper, something real. Those 12 pages, remember them, because they come back in a way no one in my family could have imagined." The end of sophomore year nearly destroyed everything. Caruso's closed, owner retired, building sold. Just like that, 40% of my income vanished overnight. I did the math 3 times, hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. I picked up my phone, scrolled to do not answer. My thumb hovered for 11 seconds. I counted. Then I put the phone down, walked to the campus job board instead, signed up for tutoring and freelance data entry. Some mornings I couldn't remember driving to campus. Maya started leaving granola bars in my backpack without saying a word. Then came the lifeline. Dr. Harmon called me into his office, not to warn me, but to hand me a letter. A competitive summer research fellowship, fully funded. Housing, stipend, meals, everything covered for 10 weeks. "You earned this," he said. "Not because of your situation. Because of your work." That fellowship didn't just save my academic career. It introduced me to a network of people in healthcare technology who saw what I could build, not where I came from. One connection from that summer would resurface years later in a place I never expected. But I'll get to that. I graduated summa cum laude on a Sunday in May. The stadium held 4,000 people. None of them were mine. Maya stood in the bleachers holding a handmade sign, Dr. Connelly, eventually in crooked purple letters. She screamed my name when I crossed the stage. One person, louder than a whole family would have been. We drove to a diner on Route 12, split a plate of cheese fries, and called it a celebration. Because it was. I got a job within a month. Entry-level software analyst at a small health tech firm outside Chicago. 12 employees. Cramped office. Terrible coffee. I learned fast, fixed systems nobody else wanted to touch, and got promoted once, then again. By 24, I was sketching something of my own on napkins and spreadsheets. A platform to manage patient data for small clinics. The ones too small for enterprise software, but too complex for paper records. The idea that had started as 12 pages in Dr. Harmon's lab had grown teeth. I used my savings and a small SBA loan to get it off the ground. Named it MedBridge Solutions. First year, 2 clients. A folding table for a desk. 0 safety net. I incorporated under my almost married name. I'd been briefly engaged to a man named David Alcott. The relationship didn't survive the 80-hour weeks, but by the time we split, all my business filings and conference badges read Paige Alcott. I never changed them back. It felt like mine, a name I'd earned in boardrooms, not inherited at a dinner table where I wasn't welcome. Then one evening, my phone rang. An Illinois area code I hadn't seen in 6 years. "Hey," Sloane said. "It's me, I know. Mom doesn't know I'm calling. She needed $8,000. She'd pay me back. Our parents couldn't know. I said no." She hung up. 30 minutes later, unknown number. "How dare you refuse your sister?" Carol's voice, colder than I remembered. I pressed the red button. Stood there. Replayed what Sloane had said. "Mom doesn't know I'm calling." So either Carol had developed telepathy, or my sister had lied to me within the first 5 seconds of our first conversation in 6 years. Some things never change. What I didn't know then was what that $8,000 was for. I wouldn't find out until the worst possible moment. And when I did, it explained every lie, every cover, every performance my sister had been running for years. Carol didn't take rejection quietly. My phone started ringing. Cousins, family, friends, all with the same script. "Paige, your mother is devastated. How could you turn your back on Sloane?" Then came the Facebook post, long, performative, dripping with constructed grief. 142 likes. Sloane's comment at the top, "Love you, Mom. I'm here for you always. A perfect duet." I saw it. Didn't react. Didn't comment. Blocked both accounts, closed my laptop, and went back to debugging a client integration due in the morning. The best response to a false narrative isn't a counter-narrative. It's a life they can't edit. Before I go on, if this story is pulling at something in you, if you recognize your own family somewhere in what Paige is describing, stay with this. Subscribe so you don't miss the rest. Because the next chapter is where 9 years of silence collides with one very expensive secret. And nothing at that wedding survives it. 2 years after that phone call, MedBridge closed its Series A $4.2 million. 28 employees. A real office in downtown Minneapolis. I still drove a Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper. I didn't build this to impress anyone, I told Maya. I built it because I had no safety net and no other option. That October, I spoke at a healthcare technology conference in Chicago. 200 attendees. I presented MedBridge's platform, how it cut onboarding time for small practices by 60%, how it worked without the enterprise price tag. Afterward, a man in a gray blazer introduced himself near the coffee station. Marcus Webb, CFO, Lakeview Medical Partners. "What you showed up there is exactly what we've been looking for." We exchanged cards. I wrote Marcus Webb follow-up November in my notes. Just a name, just a potential deal. Nothing more. As I waited for my flight home at O'Hare, a notification popped on my phone. "Sloane Connolly has sent you a friend request. New account." The old one was still blocked. I stared at it for a few seconds, tapped decline. I didn't know yet that Marcus Webb was about to become my sister's fiancé. Or that the contract sitting in my inbox would pull 9 years of buried lies directly into the light, in front of 200 people, at the worst possible moment. 6 months later, the Lakeview contract was taking shape. $2.8 million, the largest in MedBridge's history. Part of the deal required us to build Lakeview's credentialing module, the system that tracks staff licenses and certifications for regulatory compliance. Standard procedure, we needed their full personnel records to configure it correctly. Routine, technical, nothing unusual. Then an envelope arrived at my apartment on a Tuesday afternoon. Cream-colored, heavy card stock, gold embossing. I opened it standing at the kitchen counter, still holding my keys. Together with their families, Sloane Connolly and Marcus Webb request the honor of your presence at their wedding. I read it twice, set it down, walked to the window and stood there. Marcus Webb, the same Marcus Webb. My sister was marrying my biggest client. I picked the invitation back up. A folded piece of notebook paper fell from behind the RSVP card. Small, shaky handwriting, letters pressed hard into the page. "Please come." Dad, not Carol, not Sloane, Robert, slipped in like contraband. My father didn't know what I did for a living. He'd never asked. Our only contact in 9 years had been a 7-word email he never followed up on. He sent this note not because he knew about Marcus or Medbridge. He sent it because for all his failures, he still wanted both his daughters in the same room. I called Maya that night. My sister is marrying my biggest client. Silence. Does he know who you are? He knows me as Paige Alcott, CEO of Medbridge, not as Sloane's sister. Does Sloane know what you do? She has no idea. So what are you going to do? I looked at my father's handwriting. Small, shaky. The letters of a man who didn't have the courage to call but couldn't stop himself from reaching. I'm going to go. Maya didn't hesitate. You're not walking in there alone. I didn't survive 4 years of med school to let you face Carol Connolly without backup. I RSVP'd for 2. Meanwhile, the credentialing process moved forward on schedule. My team ran Lakeview's full personnel roster through our verification engine, cross-referencing credentials against state licensing databases and university registries. Standard procedure. This is what the software does. It's literally the product we were selling. I scrolled through the flagged spreadsheet at my desk one afternoon, coffee in hand, not expecting anything unusual. Line 9. Sloane Connolly, Healthcare Administrator, MS in Health Informatics, State University of New York. My stomach dropped, not from surprise, from confirmation. Years earlier, Maya had mentioned offhand that Sloane's name didn't appear anywhere in the state licensing registry. I'd filed it away. Now it was sitting in a spreadsheet attached to the largest contract in my company's history. I emailed my legal team, fast-track the full list. Standard procedure. I didn't single Sloane out. The process would find whatever was there. 3 days later, 3 names flagged. Results in 2 to 4 weeks. The wedding was in 18 days. I sat with that. The results might arrive before the ceremony, or right in the middle of it. Either way, I was walking into a room where my family had been telling one version of history, and my company was quietly dismantling another. There was no playbook for what was about to happen. I just had to walk in. Lakeview Manor sat on 12 acres of rolling vineyard just north of the Lake Michigan shoreline near Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. String lights looped between old oaks, white linen on every surface, a string quartet near the garden entrance, 200 chairs facing a flower-covered arch. It looked like money. My parents' money. Maya and I arrived at 4:40. I wore a simple navy dress. Hair down, nothing worth noticing. Moral support and funeral energy, she whispered as we walked in. Both apply. We hadn't cleared the welcome table when a voice cut through the music. I didn't expect to see you here. Aunt Diane, champagne in hand. Same pinched expression she'd worn the last time she called me the difficult one. I was invited. By whom? Does it matter? She retreated toward the bar. I watched her whisper something to 2 women who both turned to look at me. Then my mother appeared. Carol moved through the crowd like a hostess at a gala, champagne-colored dress, hair perfect, smile on full wattage. When she saw me, the smile didn't drop. It froze. She crossed the lawn in 6 seconds and pulled me behind a trellis of white roses. What are you doing here? Attending my sister's wedding. You haven't been part of this family for 9 years. Whose choice was that? Her jaw tightened. Don't make a scene. Not today. I have no intention of making a scene, Mom. She studied me for 3 long seconds, reading me, calculating. Then she turned back to her guests, voice suddenly bright as sunlight. Paige decided to surprise us. How wonderful. She folded me into her performance like a loose thread she needed to tuck away before anyone noticed. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. My father stood behind me. Suit a little too big, eyes red. He didn't say a word. He just pulled me into his arms and held on. 9 years. The first real embrace in 9 years. I went rigid. My body didn't remember how to receive this. Then I exhaled and patted his back. Hi, Dad. He squeezed tighter. I felt Carol's eyes on my back the entire time. She wasn't angry that I came. She was afraid. I didn't understand why yet. Sloane found me 10 minutes later, white tulle, expensive perfume, and a face cycling through emotions faster than she could settle on one. Shock, calculation, performance. She landed on performance. Paige, oh my God, you came. She threw her arms around me in front of a dozen watching guests, voice pitched high enough to carry. I've missed you so much. The hug was hollow, tight enough for the photos, loose enough to mean nothing. You look great, she said, stepping back and scanning me head to toe. Not warmth. Assessment. Congratulations, Sloane. My mother appeared at my elbow and steered me, not gently, toward the back of the reception. A table tucked behind a pillar near the catering entrance. Place cards for people I'd never met. We didn't expect you, Carol said. This was the only spot left. Maya sat down beside me without a word. Her expression said everything. From the head table, Carol's voice drifted across the room as she introduced Sloane to well-wishers. My daughter, the healthcare executive. We're so proud. A cousin leaned over. And Paige, what does she do these days? A pause, a tilt of the head. Oh, she's finding herself. You know how it is. Light laughter. A few people glanced my way. Maya's hand found mine under the tablecloth. Breathe. I am breathing, I said quietly. I've been breathing through worse than this for 9 years. At the bar, Marcus stood with his groomsmen. I heard him say, wait till you meet our strategic tech partner tonight. She's here. Major deal. Life-changing for the clinics. He was talking about me. He just didn't know it yet. The speeches began after the main course. Then my mother stood up. Carol took the microphone like she'd been born holding one. She talked about sacrifice and late nights and pouring everything into Sloane's future. About Sloane's incredible academic career. Her dedication. Her independence. I raised my daughter to be independent, Carol said, to chase her dreams, to never settle. The word hit me like a stone. The exact word she'd used to deny me everything. Sloane is proof that when a family invests in their children, beautiful things happen. 200 people applauded. Then Carol's gaze drifted across the room and found me. A pause. Practiced, deliberate, and of course, we love all our children, said the way you'd add a footnote, an afterthought stapled to the bottom of a finished page. A few heads turned toward me. I kept my face still. Why does it feel like something's missing today? Oh, I think it's because our family is finally complete again. She returned to her seat, glowing. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to finish my water and leave. That was the plan. That was always the plan. Then Marcus walked toward my table with a man I recognized, and the plan stopped mattering. Greg Stafford was Marcus's business partner. I'd met him once on a video call. He stopped mid-stride 3 feet from my table. Paige Connolly, Medbridge. Marcus turned, looked at me, then looked again. Wait. His face rearranged itself in real time. You're Paige Connolly. The Paige Connolly. Hi, Marcus. But Alcott, that's not, he ran through what he knew. Your name is Connolly, Sloane's older sister. I go by Alcott professionally. Have for years. I watched him do the math. The last name, the invitation. The sister Sloane had only ever mentioned vaguely, dismissively. She said her sister was, he stopped himself. Not fast enough. Was what? I asked. She said you were estranged, that you had problems. I see. My mother appeared in seconds, moving with the precision of a woman who had spent a lifetime controlling rooms. Marcus, darling, don't bother Paige. She's here to enjoy the evening. Marcus looked at her the way you look at someone who just told you the sky is green. Business, Mrs. Connolly. Do you know who this is? He gestured toward me. This is the CEO of Medbridge Solutions. We're about to sign a $2.8 million contract with her company. For 1 second, maybe less, the mask slipped. Carol's mouth opened. Something behind her eyes recalculated. Then the smile returned. Thinner, tighter. Well, isn't that lovely? Across the reception, Sloane had gone completely still. Glass frozen halfway to her lips. She set it down and started walking toward us. And for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in my sister's eyes. Not of me, of being found out. Marcus didn't wait. He was already moving toward the stage, microphone in hand, running on the adrenaline of a man who thought he'd stumbled onto the greatest coincidence of the evening. He had no idea it wasn't a coincidence at all. Everyone, sorry, one more quick announcement. 200 faces turned. I just found out something incredible. The CEO of MedBridge Solutions, the company about to transform our clinic operations, is here tonight. And she happens to be Sloane's older sister. The string quartet stopped. Even the catering staff went still. Paige Alcott, or as I just learned, Paige Connolly, built this company from the ground up. No family connections. No investors initially. She coded the first prototype while working 2 jobs, Forbes 30 under 30 finalist, and she's been sitting at the back table this whole time. Silence. Then applause scattered at first, then louder, then sustained. People craned their necks. A few stood. Thank you, Marcus. I kept my voice steady. This is Sloane's day. Let's keep the focus on them. But 200 people were already recalculating. The whispers moved through the room like a wave. That's the sister Carol said was finding herself. At the head table, my mother sat motionless, still smiling, but the smile had gone rigid. The kind of expression muscles hold when the brain behind them has stopped sending instructions. Aunt Diane appeared in front of me, face flushed. Why didn't you tell us? I did, Aunt Diane. My voice stayed level. 6 years ago, you told me I was the difficult one. She opened her mouth, closed it, walked away. Carol intercepted me near the bar, jaw tight. You planned this. Planned what? Being successful? You came here to humiliate your sister. I came because Dad asked me to. Everything else you built yourself. She stepped closer. You always had to make everything about you. This is the first time in 9 years I've been in the same room as you. I didn't make a speech. I didn't ask for the microphone. Your son-in-law introduced me. Take it up with him. She turned and walked away. I watched her hands. They were trembling. 5 minutes later, Marcus appeared at my side. The warmth from the announcement was gone, replaced by something flat and controlled. Balcony. We stepped outside. The sun was setting over the vineyard. The light was beautiful. It felt obscene. My team sent me the due diligence report this morning, he said, holding up his phone. I hadn't opened it until just now. Sloane's name is on the credential verification. Her master's degree doesn't exist. No record of her completing any program. She enrolled and dropped out sophomore year. I know. He stared at me. You knew and didn't tell me. The final verification came back yesterday morning. I hadn't processed it through legal yet. There's no playbook for this, Marcus. I couldn't exactly call you and say your fiancé's credentials don't check out, and also she's my estranged sister. He stood both hands on the railing, staring at the vineyard below. 3 full minutes of silence. The bass from the reception thumped through the glass doors. Then he said something I will never forget. I'm going to ask her once, in front of everyone. Because if she lies to my face one more time, in front of my family, my partners, then I'll know exactly who I almost married. Marcus, don't. I need to do this. He walked back inside. I followed 3 steps behind. Sloane was near the cake table, smiling hard at a bridesmaid. She saw Marcus coming and brightened. Baby, whatever she told you, did you graduate from state? The bridesmaid stepped back. Sloane laughed, short, nervous. Of course I did you. Her eyes moved. Left, right. Most of the nearby tables had gone quiet. Can we talk about this later? You told me you had a master's. His voice wasn't loud. It was rigid, the kind of quiet that makes people lean in. You told your parents you graduated. You told my clinic you were certified. Carol appeared at Sloane's side. Marcus, lower your voice. Did you know? He turned on her. Did you know about this? My daughter graduated with honors. She didn't graduate at all, Mrs. Connolly. His voice cracked. She dropped out sophomore year. 200 guests. Total silence. The only sound was a wine glass set down too hard at table 6. Sloane's face crumpled. The performance fell away all at once, like scaffolding collapsing off a building. Tears streaked her makeup. Bridesmaids moved toward her. I was going to tell you after the wedding, after I hired you into my company based on a resume you made up. Carol opened her mouth. Marcus raised one hand. Stop. Not a shout. One word, a door closing. The entire reception went still. Then Marcus turned and looked at me, standing 10 feet away, silent, holding nothing. His voice cracked when he spoke. This person is the only honest Connolly in this room. 200 people looked at me. I didn't speak, I didn't nod, I didn't need to. At the edge of the stage, my father stood alone, one hand gripping the back of a chair. He wasn't defending anyone. He wasn't speaking. He was crying quietly, the way men cry when they've known the truth for years and said nothing. Marcus walked off the patio and didn't look back. His partner followed. The groomsmen trailed after. This wedding was over. Sloane sank to the ground, her dress pooling around her on the flagstone. All that white fabric, all that money, settling into the earth. Carol turned to me, composure completely gone. Are you happy now? You destroyed your sister's life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step closer. I spoke clearly, not to perform, but because I was done having conversations in corners. No, Mom. Sloane's lies destroyed Sloane's life. My company's standard compliance process found the truth. That's not revenge. That's accountability. You could have buried it and committed fraud. Risked my company, my employees, my clients for a lie. No, I won't sacrifice my integrity for this family's image. Not anymore. Something shifted in the room. A man from Marcus's side nodded at me once. Just once. It meant everything. Carol looked around. The room wasn't with her. For the first time in her life, the room wasn't with her. She turned and walked to the parking lot without a word. Brittany, Sloane's maid of honor, touched my arm. Eyes red. I should have said something years ago. I knew about the degree. She begged me to stay quiet. I'm sorry. I picked up my clutch. It was time to go. I was halfway across the gravel parking lot when footsteps came from behind. Uneven, hurried. Dress shoes on loose stone. Paige, wait. I stopped. Didn't turn. I have nothing left to say, Dad. Then let me say something. I turned. My father stood under the last string of lights at the edge of the lot, tie loose, eyes swollen. He looked 10 years older than the man I'd left in that garage at 5 a.m. 9 years ago. I knew it was wrong, he said, every single day. I knew what your mother was doing was wrong. And I said nothing. Why? He pressed his lips together. Because I was a coward. Because it was easier to lose you quietly than to fight her loudly. His voice cracked. That makes me worse than her. She at least believed she was right. I knew she was wrong. And I still chose peace. That wasn't peace, Dad. That was abandonment. I know. Silence. A car started somewhere in the lot. Somewhere behind us, Sloane was still on the ground in her wedding dress. Somewhere, Carol was finding her keys. And here, under a string of lights on a gravel lot, my father was doing the only honest thing he'd done in a decade. I don't hate you, I said. But I can't forgive you tonight. Maybe not for a long time. That's fair. I need to go. He nodded, drive safe. 2 words, simple, small. But for the first time in 9 years, they weren't a deflection. They were just a father with nothing left to hide behind, hoping his daughter made it home safely. Maya was waiting by the car. She didn't ask what he'd said. She just started the engine. I didn't cry until we hit the highway. The fallout came in waves. The first wave hit within 48 hours. For the first time in nearly a decade, my phone rang with apologies instead of accusations. Aunt Diane called Monday morning. Her voice was stripped of everything I'd always heard in it. Paige, I owe you an apology. I believed every word your mother told me for 9 years. I was wrong. I thanked her. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. My great-aunt Margaret emailed that night. 3 lines. Your grandmother would have been so proud of you. I'm sorry we weren't there. Please don't give up on all of us. The second wave was professional. Marcus's team verified Sloane's full employment history. What they found matched exactly what I'd suspected. She had never held the title of healthcare administrator. The degree on her home office wall, the credentials on her resume, none of it was real. Marcus emailed me Tuesday. The MedBridge contract remains on track. Sloane's situation is personal and I won't let it affect our professional relationship. I just need some time. I understood completely. The third wave was Carol. She posted once on Facebook, long, tearful, "My family is being torn apart by jealousy and lies." Same playbook, but this time the comment section didn't cooperate. What about Paige? What really happened? Is it true about the degree? She deleted it within 4 hours. Then Wednesday night, a text from Sloane. No preamble. No performance. "I'm sorry for all of it. I don't expect you to believe me. I read it 3 times. Didn't respond, not because I didn't believe her, but because I didn't know yet what it deserved. Some messages need to sit before you know what to say back." 2 weeks later, consequences stopped being whispers and started becoming facts. Sloane was terminated from Lakeview Medical Partners. Credential misrepresentation. In healthcare, that kind of note follows you from one job application to the next. Marcus called off the engagement quietly, no statement, no drama. The venue refunded what it could. The registry gifts went back. The honeymoon to Portugal was canceled. Carol's social circle began to contract. Old friends stopped calling. Neighbors kept their distance. Great-Aunt Margaret told me that at a family gathering the following month, Carol sat in the corner and barely spoke. She looked like a woman who had run out of script, Margaret said. The MedBridge contract with Lakeview closed on schedule. $2.8 million. Marcus and I kept things professional, cordial, completely separate from everything personal. Years later, he sent me flowers on MedBridge's 5th anniversary. The card read, "From one self-made person to another." Then on a rainy Thursday, a small package arrived. No return address. Illinois postmark. Inside was a piece of paper I hadn't seen in 12 years. My honor roll certificate. The one Carol had taken off the refrigerator when I was 15. Slightly bent, yellowed at the edges. A post-it note on the back in my father's shaky handwriting. It was never cluttered. It was always yours. He'd kept it. 12 years in a drawer, hidden from Carol the way he'd hidden every honest impulse he'd ever had. It wasn't enough. A piece of paper can't undo a decade. But I held it for a long time before I put it down. A week later, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee and did what I should have done years earlier. Not from anger, not from victory. From clarity, I wrote Carol an email. "Mom, I don't hate you, but I won't pretend anymore. You chose Sloane not because she needed you more, but because she was easier to control. I was inconvenient because I asked questions. I'm not asking anymore. If you want a relationship with me, it starts with honesty. Not a performance, not a Facebook post. Honesty, the ball is in your court. I hit send. I didn't reread it." She never replied. Some people would rather lose a daughter than admit they were wrong. I've made peace with that, not because it doesn't hurt, but because waiting for her to change was hurting more. I called my father the following evening. "I'm open to staying in touch, but on my terms. No more give it time. No more hiding. If you want to be my father out loud. A long pause, I'll try, don't try. Do, okay." It wasn't a grand reconciliation. It was a crack in a wall enough to let light through. He calls every Sunday at 5:30. 5 to 10 minutes. The weather, the neighbor's dog, a documentary he watched. He never mentions Carol. I never ask. It's not enough, but after 9 years of nothing, something feels like a lot. As for Sloane, she enrolled at a community college in Evanston. A real program this time, with real transcripts. About 3 months after the wedding, she sent me a handwritten letter. 4 pages, front and back. Honest in a way she'd never been before. She didn't blame Carol. She didn't blame me. She wrote, "I spent so long being who they wanted me to be that I forgot to become anyone real. I haven't written back yet. Some letters need time before you know what to say in return. But I haven't thrown it away. It's in my desk drawer, right next to the honor roll certificate. People ask me sometimes, at conferences, over dinner, in those late-night conversations that go deeper than planned, do you feel vindicated? I'm sitting in my office right now, 6:30 in the morning before anyone else gets in. The Minneapolis skyline is turning orange through the window. 28 desks out there. 28 people about to walk in and build something that matters. This company started as 12 pages written in a break room by a girl who couldn't afford her own dorm sheets. And no, I don't feel vindicated. Vindication implies I needed them to be wrong for me to be right. I didn't. I just needed to be free. For years, I measured myself on a scale my mother built, designed so I would always come up short and Sloan would always shine. It took a long time to realize the scale was broken. Not me. I started therapy 3 years ago. Twice a month, Wednesday evenings, with a woman named Dr. Russo who has a way of asking questions that make you sit in silence for a full minute before you can answer. I used to think therapy was a sign of weakness. Turns out it's the opposite. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, harder than building MedBridge, harder than sleeping 3 hours a night, harder than walking into that wedding. My mother's voice still plays in my head sometimes. Resilience is a gift, Paige. She said it to justify leaving me with nothing. She meant it as a weapon. But she was right about one thing: resilience is a gift. She just didn't give it to me. I forged it myself. In late-night kitchens and early morning classrooms and a dorm room with a broken window. And nobody, not her, not anyone, gets credit for that. I don't tell this story for pity. I have a company. I have a best friend who held my hand under a tablecloth at the worst dinner party in Illinois history. I have a life I built with my own 2 burned, cracked, dishwater-wrinkled hands. I tell this story because for 9 years, Carol controlled the narrative. Paige left because she was difficult. Paige refused our help. Paige is the problem. 200 people believed her. My aunt believed her. And there were nights, long, cold, 3 a.m. nights, when I almost believed her too. Today I'm taking my story back. If you're the scapegoat in your family, the one who's too much or never enough, the name whispered at Thanksgiving, the child whose certificate got pulled off the refrigerator, hear me when I say this. Their rejection is not your reflection. I'm Paige Connolly. I'm 28. I run a company I built from nothing. I have a family that chose me, and I sleep well at night. That's enough. That's more than enough. If Paige's story reminded you of your own, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Were you the golden child or the one who got left behind? Drop your location and local time. And if this resonated with someone you know, share it with them. Sometimes the story you needed to hear is the one someone else needed to send. Check the description for more stories like this. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself.